new film. I'm going to zoom in all the way and look up toward the airport at the far end and see if what that does for us. I know that it makes it more bouncy. I'm resting my arm on a railing here at the lookout area. I'm going to take a view of the mountains now, and I'm going to zoom in on them. And hope that I'm steady enough to give you a decent picture.
Lights on here, Tom.
Yeah, I know. I had to turn it on for them. Now we're on the island of Kauai, and we just pulled off onto a scenic overlook along one of the highways. And the interesting part of this is the narrow, deep valley. Coming up to our, just below us, very dramatic and very deep. And it was the site of one of the final battles between some of the tribes, I guess, in the history of the island. Well, it's just a beautiful area. It's a beautiful area. As I pan around, I think we're crossing the highway and down on the other side. Here comes the highway, and out there's the ocean and the beaches down below.
Visit to Hanapepe Canyon Lookout will put you in touch with Kauai's historic past. The last battle for power between Hawaiian kings took place opposite the village crest. The village's name translates to crushed bay, populated by farmers who grow and harvest much of Kauai's produce.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty great.
Right by that oil drum is a passageway going out through the stone walls. This is an old Russian fort, and it played a part in the trading history, and was set up as a defense of the island, and it was named Fort Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was the wife of Tsar Alexander I or something like that, and it was named after her. And just down over the top of the rock pile that we see now, which is the edge of the fort, is the Waimea River, and where it enters into the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful breakers breaking over it down there. We can't see it from here. And on top of these walls, there's the cannon emplacements where they jutted out in a sort of a star shape. They came to points. That was the traditional type of construction in those days. This is a blowhole, and I don't know how long we'd have to wait for a fairly dramatic spout to come along, but it's a tube. There, it wasn't so big, but it's an opening where the surf goes through. It's a tube effect. You can hear the unusual noise. That's fairly pretty, but it's kind of interesting. This is the Waimea Canyon. I'm looking into the sun a good bit, so I'm a little concerned about it. You might have caught a glimpse of my hand. We're standing on a lookout at the elevation of 3,400 feet down into this valley. Very dramatic. There's a state park up further, another 1,000 feet. I'm going to zoom in on that higher elevation up there because you'll be able to see. There it comes better into focus. Right there is a Hawaii satellite tracking station. Now that I'm zoomed in, I'm going to go back down through the canyon. It's really steep, and it just drops off so dramatically. Beautiful. Okay, let me turn this off now. This is just to show you where we have been. Well, we're further up the canyon from a higher elevation, probably up around 4,200 feet. We're still looking back down through the Waimea Canyon. Very dramatic. Sort of surprising the way these deep canyons get cut out. I always sort of thought that lava would be much harder to erode. Okay, I'm just taking a picture of this so that we can get an idea of what we're looking at. Now I'm going to raise it up and zoom out. It isn't going to be a very pretty picture because we're looking off at the Forbidden Island in the distance. There it is. It's quite hazy out there. And then up to the right is the I'm going to move because I've got the other little island right behind the Okay, now there's that other little island, and it's zooming out automatically on me because it wants to focus on the stuff that's closer, and I'm forcing it out now. I hope it focuses okay. Yeah, that's the Brown Island, as they call it, Nihiwa. Now, way out in the distance is the end of northern end of Kiihwa and that other little island, and then this is more the west and northwest shore looking out panoramic. This is a little further around to the north. It's interesting the way those clouds are forming. And then we come down into a very magnificent and dramatic valley.
There seem to be a lot of wild goats.
Oh, really?
All different colors. See the waterfall down there?
No.
It's so little down there.
Way on the other side there, I've zoomed in already, and there's a waterfall. Not too good a view from it, but it's pretty. That's the peak we were on just a few minutes ago. Now we're over at the back end of the canyon that I showed you, and looking down dramatically toward see the surf against the coastline. Now I'm coming back into the canyon, looking right down at our feet. That waterfall was over to the right of where we are now, but can't see it from here. But this is very pretty. I'm zooming out just to... The helicopter just went by the end of the canyon a few minutes ago. Now we're looking back to the south from whence we came, and that's the Waimea Valley out there in the distance. And what I wanted to show you was this peak, and I forget the name, and I hope these are showing up all right because of the sun. But that peak right over top of that tree there is the wettest spot in the world. I forget the name of it. My one says it's Wahalea. I've zoomed in on that peak. They have 451 inches of rainfall a year. Kind of fun, huh?
Elevate.
The elevation there is 5,148 feet. That's the highest spot on Kauai. Here's a better view of that tracking station, or that radar station that's operated by the National Guard. Now we're on our way back down the mountains, and we stop for a look out over this canyon. It's really beautiful. I'm going to zoom in because over there on the far side is a waterfall. I don't know how much of it we can see with the zoom, but there it is. Isn't that spectacular, huh? Beautiful. As we return toward the south coast, we're just taking a panoramic shot out over down toward the south coast, the lower end of the Waimea Valley where we came from. It's pretty.
Smoke source. That's your spout. And it'll shoot up there sometimes 10, 15 feet. Three things look for, like he was just mentioning, breaching also. And well,
It's off Honolulu Beach, and right back in here is where they do the beach scenes from South Pacific. Now up above the beach, way up on the top there, it's the highest elevated swamp in the world. There's all kinds of
about 90 feet.
apparently plant and animal life that's really native to this area. The Kauai coast is where it starts, about a 14-mile coast with no roads. The only access is some hiking trails into there.
Somebody said they went up to Kauai. The lookouts are right in the back of this valley, right up here, behind that dome.
Oh my God, he came all the
Still
way
on
on
the
the water.
Nepali coast.
Show
We
off.
just stopped to look at a group of dolphins.
Here we go.
Now we have some dolphins. I don't know whether we're going to catch any of them or not. Now they seem to be going down again. This coastline is very dramatic. Unfortunately, the sun is to the south and we're looking south, so I'm not going to get really neat pictures of. This is the sea cave. We're looking way back through, and the sun kind of, it's like an arch. We're right in real close.
It's like this. Because it's kind of like a standing wave in there. It's like...
He's checking us.
Sail just rolled and went down.
Hello. Here's another one. Oh, yo.
That's a really white picture. These three whales in the South Pacific, all of them.
But I had the other
Alright.
camera I will.
You what?
But
Oh, beautiful. That's a bargain. Look, here's one right here.
Yeah, all the bubbles came up before it did, but now they're here.
Oh,
He's still right up on top. I want a fly bridge so I can look down on it.
The woman's right in the road now, the way the boat swung, but they're out there, they're rolling. There's the fluke, or the tail there.
Oh no.
They're really putting on a show for us. And I don't get very good pictures of this because you just have to be aimed in the right direction at the right time. Look, there's Lee's arm. That's a fluke. I'm going to try to zoom in, but I don't know how steady it's going to be because when you zoom in, you need a lot more steady. Right there in the surface, you can see the bubbles.
Oh, darn it. Oh, look, Bernard.
Well, I hope you caught that.
I hope you got it.
I saw it out of my other eye, and I hope I was able to swing at least for you to get part of it. He was right out of the water. Turning the boat, there was one here. He just came out of the water a little bit. Now we're in a cave at the entrance to a cave that was formed by the sea washing in, I guess, and pounding its way in there. There's water right below us, sort of like a little beach here. It's really beautiful.
Brian's over there. It's gorgeous.
This is another sea cave, great, big, wide, sort of cavernous kind of a mouth. Goes way back. Way back. Right across the street from us, and there's some more beaches. Here's Maryland exploring. Oh,
It was under there.
now I'm back inside. I must have left it running as I was walking ahead. Sorry about that. I'm looking out and across the street. The beach is way out there in the distance, but it may be focusing inside rather than out into the water. Really beautiful. We're still at the entrance of this this last sea cave, but I just wanted to try to give you a feeling of the sheerness of these cliffs. And as you walk into the sea cave, actually the bottom of the cliff is back, recessed below the back of it. That's our rental car right there in the front, and there's the entrance to the cave. The peak's covered in sun now. We're standing with our back to the beach area and looking inland. These were rice paddies at one time, and now they're raising taro there. Of course, that's the stuff they use to make that horrible tasting poi. And I understand they're now feeding poi to babies over in Europe. I've tasted this stuff. There ought to be a law against it. Well, I hope these pictures come out because the edge of this dramatically deep canyon casts a shadow with the fairly early morning sun. So this is the Waialua Falls. There it comes into view. And this is the one that was featured in Fantasy Island. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to take another shot up the falls. I moved a few feet just so that I'd be more in the shade and that one bush wouldn't be in the road. It'd be a nicer picture, especially to get up to the top. There it is. We're in the Waialua River Valley. And as we come up to the end of it, there's the Okipa'a Falls. Pretty much looking into the sun now. We're coming around there, looking downstream now from the falls. But whatever. I guess I need to zoom out. I've forgotten that I'd zoomed in before. There we go. Looking down the river. It's pretty down there. The building on the left corner is the Princeville Hotel, and we're right above the harbor where we had gone out of a couple days ago, and we're looking down toward the Nepali coast now. And there's whitecaps all over the Pacific here, and it's very, very windy. Now, I don't know with the sun where it is whether this is going to be so great, but this is the entrance to the hotel, Princeville Hotel, and that fountain was just beautiful. But what I wanted to show, if you remember, we visited a Russian fort called Fort Elizabeth down on the south shore. The same fellow named Schaefer built another fort for the Russians on the north shore. That little pavilion houses some of the interesting things about it. And just the edge of the, well, it's actually the edge of the cliff right there, is the outer edge of the fort. And we're standing in sort of a little hollow basin area, which was part of the fort. Just after you enter, then you can you come to this lovely fountain. It isn't fountaining right now. I guess it has King Neptune in it.